In Azure Dreams, you play the young, aspiring monster tamer, Ko. You are finally of age to enter the monster tower and seek your fortune, and maybe find out what happened to your father in the past. Through repeated trips to the tower, you can bring home monsters to raise, treasure to sell, and the means to build up your sleepy little town and perhaps find a girlfriend. Try your luck and hope for the best.
Bloop boop boo. Bloop doop doo. Bloop doop da boo.
Hey, I'm Michael. Welcome to I Love This Blank. Normally on this channel, my friends and I only like to talk about the things that we love, hence the name of the channel. But I'm gonna come right out and say it now. I don't love Azure Dreams. I got it when I was a kid and... Wait, hold on, that's another story. Azure Dreams came out in 1997, and I'm pretty sure I asked for it for Christmas in 1998. I wrote it on my Christmas list that I made copies of for my whole family, passed it out to everybody, and my aunt looked at the list and asked, "Azure Dreams? Is that some sort of porn game?" And, it was funny, everybody laughed. My grandma was also trying to be funny, so looked at the list, saw another game, and said, "Parasite Eve? Is that some sort of porn game?" And grandma? Anyway, so I did get Azure Dreams for Christmas in 1998. It is a roguelike RPG developed by Konami Computer Entertainment Tokyo, and it was published by Konami. I have the PlayStation version, but another version for Game Boy Color also exists. In the game, you take one or two of your tamed monsters into the monster tower, which has mostly procedurally generated floors, where you can collect loot, fight monsters, and hopefully be able to make it back to the town without passing out. Each time you enter, your own level gets set to 1, but your monsters retain their levels. You have limited item slots for things that you can bring into the tower with you, so you can't bring much of your own equipment along. But hopefully you survive this trip and get to keep that powerful sword and awesome shield you found. If you pass out in the tower, you lose everything but your monsters. If you do survive your trip, you take all of the loot and monster eggs you find in the tower back to the village. From there, you can either hatch the eggs and add the monsters to your collection, or sell them along with the rest of the loot that you don't want. You can use the money you earn to build up your home and the rest of the town, and you can flirt with and date the 7 girls in town, hopefully building a strong relationship with one of them. If that sounds interesting to you, then maybe you can stop the video here. If those mechanics are the kind of thing you dig, then that's awesome. My issue is that Azure Dreams doesn't really have the things that I'm looking for in a game that make me really love it. Let's go through that in a much faster version than I normally do with these reviews. The story is not that good. Why? Well, the pacing is basically a straight line. There are lots of tropes and cliches. Nothing about the story is super interesting, and it's not even really written that well. But that might not matter if you are really into roguelikes, if you're really into dungeon crawler-ish games, or if you're really into monster catching and breeding, if you just like the little guys. The characters in this game are not very interesting. Ko is subpar even as silent protagonists go. Gosh is just so expected as a rival. At least do rivals to lovers or something like that to spice it up a little bit. The family, Guy, Wreath, and Weedy, I had to put a big pause between family and Guy. But anyway, the family are more interesting. Guy is mysterious. Wreath is strangely cold, at least in how I read the character. And Weedy is a typical, little kid younger sister, but she's charming, so I enjoy her character. But I think the best characters are the romantic interests. These characters are all tropes, but at least they're pretty well executed tropes. Also, they have real personalities, and there are consequences if you say something that they don't like. Like, if you're mean to them, they will react to that. It's much better than the typical give character item, character likes you more type of thing that we see in a lot of early dating sims around this time. Another issue is that everybody seems to be the same race, at least how I see it. And that's an issue. We can do better than that. I know this is 97, but we can do better than that. But since there's such a dating sim element to this game, that makes the female characters a little bit better. There are more of them, and they're typically pretty well written, so the gender balance in this game is actually pretty good. Normally I don't have much to say about graphics. Here they're fine. Let's just keep looking at these for a bit. You can get a sense for what these graphics are and if you like them or not. I think possibly the best part of this game is how consistent the designs are for the characters, the monsters, and the world. Many of the character designs are actually pretty good, like look how punchable Gosh's face is. Most of the dateable girls are pretty standard, but with one odd feature, like for instance, look at Nico's clown cuffs. Some of the girls look a little basic and tired though. For example, look at Mia and Cheryl here. Unfortunately, the town itself is nothing special to look at. I know that you can make it better throughout the game, but there's not enough there for me to be excited about making it better, and when you do start to make it better, it doesn't really look that much better. It's still just a pretty standard desert town. And the tower itself gets pretty monotonous. As I mentioned before, most of the different floors of the tower are procedurally generated, which is cool, so you don't ever see the same layout of a tower twice, aside from the couple floors that are the same every time. But that procedurally generated floor plan makes it not very interesting. It's often just like a big loop with one or two other paths that cut through at different points, and none of the layouts seem like they are planned or especially meaningful. However, there is a slight change in aesthetic every few floors, which is kind of nice. When we talk about sound on this channel, we are talking about more than just the music. We're also including the sound effects. The sound effects in this game are fine. Normally, I like to cover a song from a game to have playing in the background of these reviews. I decided that I didn't want to do one from this game, and there are a few reasons for that. When it comes to the composition itself, I like how there are a few themes that have different versions of them. The themes level up as you upgrade the buildings. Like, there's your normal house theme, and then if you expand it once, it changes to a different theme. If you expand it again, it changes to a different theme again. But all of these themes are closely related, they're just variations of each other. And just like there's a visual aesthetic change up in the tower every few floors, the same thing happens with the music. There's the typical tower theme that gets slightly altered every few floors that matches the visual transformations of the tower. And that's a pretty cool idea. When it comes to the instruments chosen, they're pretty effectively cohesive, especially, even if there are times when the sounds themselves are a little obnoxious and grating. The issue with both the composition and the choice of instruments, appropriation and/or exoticism. I can see the train of thought here. The game takes place in a small desert town, and so we think desert town vaguely Middle Eastern sounding. I guess that means that the music has to consist of sloppy Middle Eastern references that are not really that accurate. I don't know if the composer of this game has any Middle Eastern ancestry, but I'm guessing not. And that's not to say that someone who is not from the Middle East cannot create music from the Middle East that is still authentic and earnest. It can still be effectively and sensitively done. Now, I am no expert in Middle Eastern music. I just don't think this is it. It sounds very cliche, and that's such a disappointment. Gameplay is the category that could be make or break for you depending on your interests. The movement feels pretty good. It's kind of a slippery run and jump cycle outside of the tower. In the tower, it's much more methodical because it's turn-based movement. The monsters only move when you move. So whenever you take a step or swing your sword, that's when everybody else can move. Now, some monsters are faster and can move 2 spots for your one or attack twice for your one, but it's still basically turn-based. Because of that, the movement in the tower is a little bit more stop-and-start stuttery, which is expected in this case, and I don't think that's a big detractor. The camera's mostly fine. There are a couple times in the tower when you want to turn and see something, but because of some elevation differences, you can't really see it. But sometimes that's done intentionally to hide a trap or something like that in the floor. The battles are okay, but they just get really old by the end of the game, I assume. I've never beaten this game. I played this game a lot as a kid. I slowly raised enough money to develop all the buildings in town and things like that, but I never was able to get very high in the tower because this game is actually kind of hard. I can't tell if the battles are still feeling kind of dull by the end of the game, but by the time I stop playing each time I play, I'm done with them. The progression system of level ups is pretty standard. You just get enough experience points and your stats go up by a predetermined amount. This is fine, there's nothing wrong with that, and especially since Ko's level gets reset to 1 every time he enters the tower, that changes things a bit. So then the strategy becomes what monsters you have with you, what their typing is, what other types they're strong against, and what their levels are and what skills they have learned because of their level. Yeah, so again, aside from the game not being super interesting to me, it's also too hard for me, which is a pretty big blow in my book. When it's already not super interesting, when I'm already not so excited to find out what's coming next in the story, because there really isn't much of a story, that sort of just leaves me not really wanting to put more effort into the game. Game Rankings calculated an aggregate score of this game of 72%. My score for this game comes to 69%. Nice. Here's where this game sits in context of other games around it. As you can see, there are some games on here that people really love that are fairly low down. Part of that is just because our system does make numbers sit a little bit lower, and some of these I do think deserve higher scores, but I think the order that these show up in this list is pretty accurate. So, who is this game for? I think you might enjoy Azure Dreams if you enjoy a roguelike challenge of getting to the top of a tower. You might like Azure Dreams if you like games that have some dating sim elements to them. You might like it more if you don't care when a game doesn't have a super strong story. And you might like it more if you just like collecting little guys. Anyway, that's it for this quick review. Thanks for joining me. Please give this video a like if you liked it. Let me know your thoughts on Azure Dreams below. Which characters do you like the most? Which girl did you date if you played it? Or does this seem like something you would like? Let me know what you would like about it. Subscribe to this channel if you want to see more game reviews and music reviews, mostly from the 90s, but we do some other stuff here and there. Up here is a video that YouTube thinks you might like, so check that out. Down here is the playlist of video game reviews. Check those out if you want to see more. That should be about it. Maintain your groovy selves.